Hey everybody, welcome back to Whiteboard Finance. My name is Marco and I'm here to help you master your money and build your wealth. In today's video, I want to show you how much house you can actually afford using my home affordability spreadsheet. So we're going to go through real numbers and there are a million rules of thumb when it comes to buying a house or buying a car. Here's some of which you may have heard for home buying. So the 28-36 rule. Your monthly housing costs, your mortgage, your property taxes, your insurance, your HOA fees, all that stuff should not exceed 28% of your gross income. I'm sure you've heard this if you've been Googling rules of thumb for home buying. There's also the 36 rule. Your total debt payments should not exceed 36% of your gross income, and that's including the housing, the car loans, the student loans, credit cards, all that stuff. There's also the house price rule, 2.5 to 3x your annual income. A house should cost no more than 2.5 to 3 times your gross annual income. Here's the truth, you guys. Those are all rules of thumb. If you want to actually know how much house you can afford, you need to track your budget and know every single line item to understand where your money is actually going. Since most people don't do that, I'm going to actually show you my calculator that actually does most of this for you, as long as you know your exact income, which most of you watching this video do. So I'm going to just show you real quick. Median personal income in the United States is around $42,000 per person. If you look at the median household, it's about $80,600. If you look at different metrics for that, it's about the same, $80,600. So the median cost of a home in the United States today is $419,200. So when it comes to this calculator, you need to put in anything that's in yellow here. These are all variables that you can basically change, and then it'll spit out numbers for you. And we'll see how that works in a second here. So what I recommend you doing is taking a hard look at how much money you actually net. We're not going to be going off gross figures. Gross figures don't mean anything, okay? Especially if you're a business owner. You can gross $1 million a year and still lose money, right? So when we're going to use these numbers, let's just use the median right now. And I'll use $420,000 for a home. In your area, it may be significantly less. In your area, it may be significantly more. But let's roll with $420,000. Down payment, let's just assume you have 20%. Otherwise, we get into private mortgage insurance and some other variables. But just for simplicity's sake, let's go with 20%, okay? Annual interest rate right now at the time of this recording, a 30-year fixed, let's just call it 7%. Maybe a little bit less than that, but let's just do 7% for easy numbers. Mortgage term, you pick the amount of years here, and then we start to see this pie being created with a monthly payment and how much is going towards amortization and how much is going towards interest. But let's put in some more variables here. So with annual costs, we have property taxes. So in my area, a house that costs this much is probably going to be in the neighborhood of, $7,000 to $10,000 a year in property taxes. Let's just use $7,000. Homeowners insurance, you're going to be somewhere in the neighborhood of $1,300 a year. And again, you can start to see this pie being populated where it breaks everything down. You have property taxes, homeowners insurance, amortization, interest, et cetera, et cetera. So monthly costs, if there is an HOA, let's just assume there is, $25 a month. And then utilities, this is based on obviously your personal consumption. But just for easy numbers, let's do $500 a month. This is gas, sewer, water, whatever, electricity. And then here's where my spreadsheet is different than the others. And this will tell you exactly whether you can afford this home or not. So once we start putting in some variables here based on what the people make in the household, these numbers will start to update. You'll see how cool this spreadsheet really is. If you want to get this spreadsheet, there's a link down in the description below, and it'll also be in the pinned comment. But the reason I'm showing you this is because my rule of thumb, if you actually had to go by one, is your entire housing costs. That's mortgage, property taxes, insurance, HOA fees, utilities, basically everything that it costs to live in your home, including you could, if you want to be super conservative, you can go with maintenance as well. It should be anywhere from 25 to 30% of your net income, not your gross. So some people may call that a little bit aggressive, especially with how much housing has gone up over the years since I made this video, 5-6 years ago. But if you want to actually be able to live life and be able to travel, eat the food you want to eat and just live a normal life, 25 to 30% will prevent you from being house poor, okay? That's my personal rule of thumb. So once we start to put in some numbers here, you'll see how powerful this spreadsheet really is. So what this box is, this is total household income. We have person 1, person 2, extra income. If you have more than 3 people, you can just, add another line here. But let's just pretend this is one person who makes $100,000 a year, okay? There is no person 2, there is no extra income. Here we have the tax rate. Typically, I just like to use like 32%. You don't have to do this. If you know exactly what your net pay is, you can put this at 0 and just mess around with these numbers till you get your exact net income, okay? So on $100,000 a year, if there was no tax, this person would be earning exactly $8,333 per month. But we know there is tax, so I'm going to use 32%. When it comes to things getting taken out of your paycheck, it's right around a third, okay? What this is, the savings plan per week, is how much are you able to save for housing per week. And let's say this person, out of their net income of $5,600, let's just say they can put away like $750 a week. So what this is already telling us is that the loan amount is going to be $336,000. This is your $420 minus your down payment of $84. This is the total sum of payments over the life of the loan. So this person is going to be paying almost $500,000 in interest if they just make the minimum payments over 30 years at a 7% interest rate. They're going to be paying $804,000 for this house over 30 years. What this doesn't take into account is inflation. $804,000 30 years from now is not the same as $804,000 today, okay? It's called the time value of money. So what this is doing is this is taking their mortgage plus their interest plus all the other things that are being taken into account. We have property taxes, homeowners insurance, HOA, utilities, all that's being taken into account and being divided by 12, which gives us a monthly payment of $3,452. And you can see exactly how that's broken down here. We have interest, we have amortization, we have utilities, we have homeowners insurance, our HOA, our property taxes, all that stuff. So now what this is telling us is if this person can only put in $750 per week, this is their net income minus their income after housing expenses, they're actually in the negative, okay? So they know they have to kick it up a little bit. So let's make it $800 a week, and that gets us in the black. But the other cool thing about this spreadsheet is it tells us all this information right here. So scenario 1, again, is this person making $100,000 a year. There is no person 2, there is no extra income. And then you have different scenarios. You can add a second scenario if you have a spouse. You can add a third scenario if you have a side hustle. And that just populates in these columns right here. So let's say a second scenario is that the first person still makes $100,000. So these two columns are going to be the exact same. But then they have a spouse making $45,000 a year, okay? And this is all going off of net because it's taking their monthly net income. And let's say they have no extra income. Let's say this guy makes $75,000, his wife makes $75,000. It's going to be a similar scenario to this one, okay? And let's say they have a side business selling hot sauce that makes $20,000 a year, okay? So it's pretty cool because it populates all these different scenarios and you can see exactly what your monthly income after your housing expenditures is. And this is how you can make an educated decision. So for the total net in scenario 1, these people are bringing in $68,000 a year, or this person. Remember, it's $100,000 minus 32%. That's $32,000 with a total net of $68,000. So the math is correct. Their monthly net income is $5,600. Their monthly income after housing is $2,215, which brings us to a mortgage to income level of 52%. Okay, so this is too high. Mortgages to utilities to income is 61%. Price to income of the house is 4.2. Remember, the house is $420,000. They're grossing $100,000. So yeah, it's too high. So if you go to the second couple where they're netting or grossing $145,000 right here, you can see their total net is $98,600. They're bringing about $8,200 a month, and you can see their income after housing is $4,765. So now even these people can't afford this house at $145,000 gross a year because their mortgage to income is 36%. Their mortgages to utilities and everything else to income is 42%. Okay. Now, this next scenario, this family's bringing in $170,000, And even they're kind of out of that 30% rule. So let me just bump this up. Let me say it's the first person making 100 grand. Now, these people grossing 195 can afford this house. They're netting 132 with the hot sauce business and the 2 salaries. Their monthly net income is 11,000. Their monthly income after housing expenses is 75.98, and then their mortgage to income is 27, and then everything else is 31%. So the 30% rule that I talked about is aggressive, but these people have $7,500 a month left over to do whatever the hell they want. They can go travel to Europe. They can go to Turks and Caicos. They can fund colleges, give to their church, do whatever they want, right? So maybe it is a little bit too aggressive, but at the end of the day, this is showing you exactly what you'll have left over after all the housing is taken care of. And that's accounting for, a bunch of stuff. That's accounting for property taxes, insurance, HOA, utilities. A lot of calculators don't take into account utilities, which it costs to live in your house, okay? Even if your house is paid off, you still have property taxes, insurance, and utilities to pay, okay? That never goes away. So what this is showing right here is 3 different scenarios. For a $420,000 house with 20% down at 7% interest in 30 years. Now, what if we turn this into a 15-year and bump this to a 6? Okay, lower the rate a little bit. Everything else is equal. You can see how much these people have left over now. $7 grand, 4,100, and 1,600, and these numbers went from 31% to 37%. And these people are house poor for sure. Even these people are house poor at these numbers. Their housing is 50% of their income. Okay, so a lot of Americans, they get into trouble because they want the dream home. They get sold the American dream. And then they just buy way too much house and lead miserable, debt-laden, stressed-out lives for the next 30 years of their life, right? So the goal in this country, you guys, is to sleep cheap. There's always going to be a new toy, a new car, a new loan, a new jet ski, a new whatever, boat, new hobby. It's expensive to live here, and this is going to prevent you from making the biggest mistake of your lives. So go out, get the spreadsheet, check out the link in the description below. Check out the link in the pinned comment below. And as always, have a prosperous day. And then also, joking aside, you can obviously edit this however which way you want. And if you think 32% of income tax is too high, you can obviously play around with that. But this seems to be the case. About 30% or so seems to be the case. And again, if you know your exact net income, just make that 0. And if you don't bring home exactly $8,333 per month, you can always change this to like 75 grand and get your total net income, right? So it's just something to play around with. In my opinion, and then also what I forgot to mention was you have the amortization schedule here. So you can see on a 15-year at 6% with $336,000 borrowed, you can see exactly how much is going to interest, how much is going to principal, and how that changes over time. So this should go to 180 payments because it's 15 years. Yep, 180. And then if I go back to the beginning of the spreadsheet and I change this to a 30, and let's bring it back to 7% right here and change this amortization back, you can see now how little on a 30-year mortgage goes to principal payments. You're paying $2 grand a month in interest, and $275 is going to principal. $1,960 to interest, $275 to principal. Isn't that crazy? And then there's going to be obviously 360 payments here because you're basically doubling a 15-year mortgage. And you can see, only in like year 15 or so does this flip. You can see exactly when more is going towards interest than principal. It's actually past year 15. So information and knowledge is power, you guys. That's why this spreadsheet is so powerful, and that's why you should go get it. Like, comment, subscribe, share. Algorithm hates me. I'm busting my ass making these videos, and they're not getting any views. So share the video. Peace.